Israel.
This is Kankadi Radio, Canada Caribbean Development Initiative Radio. We cross borders. We network in search of opportunities for all peoples.
Yes, folks, it's Heart to Heart every Thursday night. Please join me this and every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for Heart to Heart. You can hear Heart to Heart on Bay Hill News Network and also on Concord Radio in Toronto. Every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Please join me. You never know what you're going to hear on Heart to Heart, but you will hear it. Don't forget to join me. Please share this live.
Join your host, Ras Bish, for Stepping into the Light at Bihill Online Radio and Concordi Radio. Ras Bish steps into the light of food and agriculture, culture and liberty. Stepping into the light lifts the level of your self-consciousness, activates your collective security genetic code, raises your earthly vibrations. To win in this Armageddon, you must listen to Stepping into the Light with host Ras Bish.
It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio. Thank you. The Hill News Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real-life stories and the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life. So join me, Vin Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30 for Inside Health on Bay Hill News Net, also on KankadiRadio.info. Hi friends, what's happening in your corner? Be it a group meeting, a sporting activity, a community activity, some upcoming event. Whatever the happening in your corner, let us know. We share it on Kankadi Radio. So email us at kankadi.radio@gmail.com. That's CANCARDI.radio@gmail.com. We are in your corner. It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio.
Thank you. Boost your brand's visibility with Branding by Weeks. At Branding by Weeks, we are passionate about helping brands gain exposure and make a significant impact. Let us elevate your brand's visibility and reach new heights. Connect with us today by email at spweeks@hotmail.com or message us on WhatsApp 613-866-8939.
Island Style Souvenir and Clothing Store. We carry everything you need in souvenirs. T-shirts in all different sizes, cap, keychains, key rings, plaques and banners, magnets, ID holders, mugs, and we even carry St. Vincent flag. And that's not all. We carry Hawaiian style t-shirts and dresses, handbags with matching scarves. We also carry tie-dye dresses, shirts and tops. Everything in our store are made right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So come on over and check us out. We are located at the cruise ship berth in Kingston, Island Style.
Join your host, Ras Bish, for Stepping into the Light at Bihill Online Radio and Concordi Radio. Ras Bish steps into the light of food and agriculture, culture and liberty. Stepping into the light lifts the level of your self-consciousness, activates your collective security genetic code, raises your earthly vibrations. To win in this Armageddon, you must listen to Stepping into the Light with host Ras Bish.
Greetings. Welcome to the 14th program for the year of Stepping into the Light at Bihill Radio and Concordi Radio with your host Ras Bishai. Tuesday, 18th of November, 2024. That was our theme song, Exodus, by Bob Marley. And you know when you hear that song, it's time to link up your friends and whoever you need to listen to this program and get your logins right, get comfortable, and get ready to be stepping into the light with Ras Bish. Isis. So Mahatotep to all listening and following this program. So it's good to be here with you again for another program. And we're going to make it real lovely today, tonight. Lovely. Isis, glory to the word, glory to the song, and glory to the power of the Most High. Yeah, Rastafari. Almighty creators of this universe, and I give thanks for your love, your care, and your guidance throughout the time, and for bringing I here for another program. Keep shining a light into I path as I go stepping into the light and onto Mount Zion. Like this. Hearing up the ancestors. Blessed be the high rates of his and her Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie and Empress Menen, one perfect balance. Blessed be the high rates of our ancestors in Neteru, which walk alongside I always, keeping I feet from slipping and falling, I hands from pilfering and stealing, and I mouths from slander and idle speaking. And I call on the goddess Maat and the 42 divine ones from creation, keep I people firmly on the 7 basic principles of truth, order, balance, harmony, law, morality, and justice. Give I life over death, light over darkness, mind over matter, and good over evil every time. Ashe. Yes, good people. Of course, this program would not be possible without the solid assistance of the owners and operators of Bay Hill Radio and of Kankadi Radio, as well as the sponsors of this program. And it would not be a reality without all the listeners who listen to this program. You, very important. You make it the reality. Yes. So what are the happenings since last Tuesday when you and I met? What are the happenings? And happenings are things which you would hardly hear on other radios. That is why Bay Hill and Kankadi stand out. Right? And even though you hear them, the way they're going to put them over to the people is not the same way that you will hear it here. But when you leave here, you have a full understanding of what is happening, what has happened, and where we go from there as a people. As a people, remember that we have to move as a people. If we move anywhere else, any other way, we just wasting time. Can't win the battle that way. So the first thing we look at several things tonight. I have about 6 issues here. Not all of them are the same weight and will take the same time. Some are much larger than some, but all of them are interrelated in some way. The present weather pattern being experienced in Winston, European here. As you know, I've been saying this for some time now in the program that November is normally, historically been the wettest month. There's a period between like the middle October and the middle November when you that period in particular. This November here, it looks watery. We're up until the 18th day and wow. Look at the rain we had so far is much more than most of the months before had for the complete month. And we just about little over halfway here. And it's causing a lot of damage. It's caused a lot of physical damage in certain areas. We're not going into that aspect any deeply tonight, okay? Because, that's in all over the news. It's caused damage, flash floods, not anything settling because our soil doesn't allow that. The water runs off quickly but cause some damage. Landslides in particular. And even house slides in some areas. So we had that we're having that sort of a weather. Okay? We're talking about, apart from the damage, we've been having that sort of a rain, water. And let me deal with this right here, right now, in this aspect of it. I've been saying for several programs, since we got those water tanks freely from different countries and organizations overseas, that they were supposed to be distributed as rationally as possible to the people of this country, particularly farmers and people who do like value adding in their home, small scale industry, home industries and so on, processing whatever, particularly those, but other people too. And we know right now, we still know that there are a couple thousand still in storage, at least. Okay? But look at the amount of rain that has fallen from, let us say, September, October, November. How much of that is stored? And we still have all these empty water tanks all over the place. Because there is no real development plan to distribute them. Of course, there's a political plan. That's why we're in trouble. But there's not a development plan. Otherwise, people would have had... Just imagine that if 500, just calling us a reasonable number, 500 farmers and gardeners and these same entrepreneurs between them had 2 tanks each that could hold up to, let us say, about 800-900 gallons of water. You know, the value of that water would be right now in terms of its productive capacity, what it could assist that person to do when there's a need for water. But we don't think that way because that is the development we're thinking. We think, our people think the political way. How much political mileage you could get by sharing it with a certain time to make that impression. But that time it's too late because you ain't getting in November again in a hurry. So all that water gone. Anyway, we have to wise up to these things as a people. We are the people. We're sitting down. We're not leaving Babylon, as the tune says. We're sitting down in the system that is keeping us down and giving energy to the system to keep us down. And complaining every day. We're also going to look at the call from the Minister of Minister of Agriculture, farmers to report damage, that is damage caused by the rains, to the nearest agricultural station. We're going to look at it in the way of what if it's an effective way of communicating in this time, right? We need a level beyond this type of communication, and we're going to say what's needed. Going to that in a while. We're going to look also at the issue of St. Vincent being offered and accepted at least 25,000 acres of land in Venezuela to farm, and wanting to send farmers there to plant, among other things, cassava. We're going to look at its relevance, right? Is it worthwhile? And the context in which this thing is being said right now. Okay? And we're going to look also at the reality of what's needed, because, you know, we always give a solution to the pollution, wherever we see pollution. Right. We're also going to look at the recent situation with our inshore fishing sector as of this year, 2024. The reasons why it is that way and what is the way forward. Our inshore fishing sector. Okay. Of course, you're going to get the the biodynamic gardening and planting by the Moonface Guide for the period Wednesday the 20th November to Tuesday the 26th November 2024. And the other thing that we're going to look at now, and it's related also to the weather and is what is happening, what has happened, and what could still happen from the weather, is the damage to our farm feeder roads. And I think I would like to start there. Now, we have hardly had any investment for quite some time in farm feeder roads. Hardly had any investment to speak about. Okay? The roads that were previously estates up to the 1980s, 70s and 80s, when the land distribution program took place. Because I will explain why it's not a land reform. Land reform don't have a reverse gear like this one. Okay? There's no country in the world that has a fast and more powerful reverse gear for land reform than this country. That's for another program anyway. So it's a land distribution. Those roads have not been properly maintained. And the other areas where we had mountain roads and inroads where farmers now have a lot of produce and try to eke out a living to supply their community and the town market in some cases and other markets, very little even tracks are disappearing. So we have not had a road building nor a road rebuilding for our farm and feeder roads program for a long time. And with this kind of weather, the hammering, but where there is there's a cloud, there's a silver lining behind this cloud, right? So what I see now is an opportunity. What I see is an opportunity for a massive national program. Remember I say national, meaning they have to include all the people, all national program, building and rebuilding of farm and feeder roads. Because when monies are borrowed in the name of the nation or in the name of the people, everybody who's that strain goes on to. Not one set to this and they don't go on the other set. Every jackman and woman. We need now to take this opportunity with the people and demand that we have a national network of farm and feeder roads, right? Up to when I really look at it, if we look at it from agricultural regions, districts rather, we have 13 agricultural districts. We have 3 regions. Okay? And I say in each region, if we have 3 regions, we could have less than 30 miles of road. We need to do that in the region. So I just rung it up to 100 miles of feeder road. And when I check with my engineering friends and colleagues, the present cost of a mile of road now, especially when you're going into areas which have embankments and you have to build little crosses and crossings, and a bridge here and there and a rail here and there and so on and that kind of thing. And of course, enough drainage. It's about $3 million EC dollars a mile. So if we could invest over 600 million on something that most of us see that don't really make much sense right now, call a new port. Okay? Why can't we invest 300 million in something that could generate that in 1 year. $300 million worth of production could come from that. More than that could come from it in 1 year. So by 5 years, we would have repaid that investment. We could have repaid that investment easily. Could repay that investment. And people would be much happy. And by having those roads, you would stabilize in a long way the production of food and other products in this country. And that would increase the employment, increase the wealth, increase the health, increase the happiness of everybody. Yeah, but it takes a lot to do that. It takes a togetherness of the people to do that. And you have to forget this ism and schism and this who belong to this party and who belong to that party. And those are the kind of negatives that keep us down in this time. It's mean to say that we have to have a different system of dwelling together as a people. And this is the time, and as the song say, if you're not making your exodus and you're not moving out of that, well, you ain't going to make it. Straight up, you're not going to make it. This new time, which is a new time and a new day, is not for the individualists. It's not for the non-team players. It's not for the divide and rulers. It's not for the envious and the greedy and those who feel one hand could clap. It's not your time at all. Completely different time. Completely different. So, one of the positives that we have to take out of this storm damage that we're having in this rainy time is that we have to invest in reducing this damage and at the same time producing wealth. The investment is one that would generate many times its worth in wealth in a very short to medium time. So feed the roads. We the people pushing for that. We're not waiting on any government or any parliament because we know how they're doing. They ain't doing. We know that. We have to push for that now. And if you don't know that collectively have the strength to do for it, well, you're just wasting time. Whether you're 12 or you're 82 and you don't know, and you just don't know that you don't know, well, that is in the worst position. Check yourself. Pick yourself up. Get to know yourself. Get to know who you are. Because all you're doing is putting pressure on the next generations to remain in this mental prison that they have here in the region and right here in this country. Keeping you from being a team player. Keeping you from lifting up your vibes to a different level. You're playing like that, but anytime you hear the national team, whether it's netball or football or cricket playing, you're reary. You go reary when you're not playing as a team. When they lose, you're reary. You must lose because you're not giving them the vibes. You're not working as a team. That takes me now to this call by the minister, from the Minister of Agriculture for farmers to report damage related to the storm, the rains we've been having. Report that damage to the nearest agricultural station. Now, first of all, this is the way I see it, this is the way I know it, this is the way I experience it, and this is the way the vision has come to I, based on it. First of all, this call, well, the Minister of Agriculture, the Office of the Minister of Agriculture, should have a say in this. But when it comes to technical things like these, this is where the technical people have to be involved. Understand that? Because these are the people who interface with the farmers and the agricultural sector on a daily basis. And agriculture itself is not, like any other sector, is not a political thing. We have to take a development approach to this whole thing. So I know for sure that the way the communication should go is not the way the communication is going. And that is turning off a lot of farmers, not just now, but for a long, long time. And if a country like this, the people who have the certain skills and get a job based on their skill sets and so on, in a certain area are not allowed to perform that skills, it means that you're infringing on the whole development of the country, wherever that happens. And that is why we have to have these messages coming through the right channel. First of all, this shouldn't even happen. There should be no need for anyone to call farms and tell them to report to the nearest agricultural station. We need a system set up so that farmers everywhere are real. Once you are a farmer and you are in the group, in the collective, you have to be organized and be a member of some body, some community body, farmers grouping somewhere. So that grouping now has an executive which has a responsibility to do this thing. So nobody have to call on them to do it, because you will have your system so trained that everybody knows that their secretariat in their grouping has to take this information from their grouping to the central, the coordinating, which would be in this case the Ministry of Agriculture. It could come that way through the agricultural stations, but nobody's supposed to be telling them that. There's supposed to be something which is part of the whole system. And that is where we do, because we have no background in the communities. It's just individuals. So somebody had to send them, tell this one to do that, tell it. We're just wasting time. That's the old print. We're not using that again. That's like a 3D. We move away from that. This is the time of 5D movements. And if you have to be competitive in this new earth and this new world, you can't be using those outdated communication systems. No way. Not in this time. Not in this time. So we now have to start to train a new army of youth and a new method, a new order for the communities in terms of the development, the structure that is needed to operate so that we could lift ourselves up and be stepping into the light instead of wallowing in the darkness. That's where we have to go. So what is needed in this area? What is needed here is for a development program. People's development. Now we just talk about some infrastructure. That's one. But the people's development is where we have to go now. And we have to focus on the youth. That is why I am and others are trying now. We are working now to form a national army, task force. Right? Recruiting young soldiers for this. To make sure that within the next 5 to 10 years, collectively we could lift this country out of the quagmire. It is in terms of food and health and wealth. Because your health is your wealth. And if your food brings you health, then you will generate a lot of wealth. And for the food to do that means the soil has to be healthy also. The soil has to be healthy. The environment has to be healthy. totally healthy. And when we do that, we want to train several hundred people, skills training a year. That is what it needs in different types of skills, from administrative capacity to technological capacity to manufacturing capacity to production capacity to value-added capacity, everything you're talking about. That is how we have to do that. Everybody come forward, born with a difference, Not everybody born with the same talent, the same gift, the same skill. So that is why you have the order to set. But everybody has value in the system. Everybody has value. So when you put the notes together, it's just like a musical instrument, a steel band, or a guitar, or a violin, or a piano, or an accordion. It's notes. But then you have to harmonize the notes to get the music, or, a trombone, or a saxophone, or a trumpet. But when the trumpet blew in this time, and the bass roll, you get the harmony. And that's what we have to do. If we're not doing that, we're just wasting time. And this is not the time to waste time. Because time in this time ain't allowing anyone to waste it. Just moving ahead. Go and leave you. So in this type of message now, when we have these things, what we should be doing now, when we have these kind of, challenging weathers where some damage is caused, but we also have to put programs in place. That is why the groups have to get organized to mitigate this damage from happening, prevent it from happening. Because this is preventable. This is preventable. Don't fool yourself that we never had, this country and this region never had this kind of weather before, long before we were here. Yeah, we had this kind of weather. But there were measures put in place to mitigate it, to control water, to control erosion, to do everything. Soil conservation measures and other things. Proper drainage. Proper ground cover, all these things are important. So except we retrain and train our young people in these ways, we ain't going anywhere. We're just wasting time. And a time now when technology and technical equipment and AI and so is available to use them for this. Some people, all they want to do is either they talk in something that don't make sense on the phone, or they're on TikTok. That's it. And I only TikTok that we used to know when we were small. So we have to get our act together. Yes, so we dealt with the present weather. We dealt with the call from the minister, right? Okay, I want to go now to the recent situation with our inshore fishing sector as of this year. What is happening? Why it has happened? And looking at the way forward. Now, I born and I am still living in, well, at the moment I'm living here, but travel a lot. In South Leeward in Camden Park, Camptown, right? And everybody would know, who knows St. Vincent, who knows this country, you hear me, that Camden Park is South Leeward, the southern part of the Leeward side. Okay? Camden Park, Lower Kittels, Clare Valley. Right? Those, even up to Lomans Bay, because all that was part of Camden Park. Although it named Lomans Bay, that part was a part of Camden Park estate in the estate days. And these 4 beaches, Lomans Bay, Camden Park, which was a large beach before the wharf was there, Lower Kittels and Clare Valley are 4 significant historically seine fishing areas and inshore fishing areas, communities. That fishing was a great part historically of our living, our livity. Employment, food, and revenue. So when you grow up and you are accustomed hearing, as we say, shell blow, that's the people who sell the fish, 3-4 times a day in these areas, that becomes normal for you. But in this year, when months and months and months go, and you don't hear shell, and you don't even see things coming up with, buses coming up with, vans coming up with fish to sell now, you know something is basically wrong. And when you go deep and you investigate, those people who are the saints hardly see any fish to catch in this year. And the people who fish in the bottom line, nature, hardly get much of a bite inshore for most of this year. And you ask your question, why? What is it? When you look at the other countries surrounding us, this is not the case. Their problem may have been the damage, physical damage that their fishing fleet got from Beryl, but Beryl is just the other day, early July. But up to that time, their fish stocks and their catch were up. So what happened here that didn't happen in those countries? That is how you look at things. What is the reason? What is preventing our fish from coming inshore and breeding? Because that is what they have to do. And feeding. So that when they do that, they have to spend some time and our sane people could catch some of them. And when I look at the whole thing, a big part of it has to do with what we put in our soils and what has run off from the soils into the sea, through the rivers, because a lot of these fish breed between the fresh and the salt, where the water is not so salt and not so fresh. That's a known fact that's a traditional fact we know from a long time. Because certain sea plants grow in that area for the fish that eat plants, right? And certain things come off the soil in the early days when we were not using certain toxic chemicals in the soil. So what good was more organic, and fish would feed on that also. So you had a community there of fish, and smaller, all different size, and plants. And so they would come and spawn there most of the time, spawn in the area. And so the fish, when they grew now, the fisher folk would be able to catch some of them. But that hasn't taken place for months in our area. Nowhere on the leeward side, even further down. Leeward, Buckerman, Chatterville, Cumberland, these places where you normally would hear lots and lots of fish. Inflow fish. That hasn't taken place this year. And when I did my own analysis, I attributed that to the amount of urea fertilizer that we put on the soil in the last year. Because when you know the characteristics of that fertilizer and you realize that that shipment wasn't even proper urea, it was already degrading. And you look at the solubility of it and how it leaches easily into the soil at the runoff. And then the effects, you know that that is a big contributor to the lack of fish. The lack of fish in our rural communities, of seine fish. The lack of fish in the markets. When you listen now to the report, the Kingston Fish Market report on a daily basis, and you see what they have to sell, you don't see any of these seine fish inside, you don't hear anything. And I made it my business to inquire from the good manager, what is it? And it's just that none is coming in. Look a year like this when you're supposed to be hearing Jack flicking down the place, you're hardly hearing that. You know, the people who fish inshore and look for some of these fish to make bait. Up to yesterday, one has asked me if I don't have any, you do, so that's gone. That connection is gone. And all because we are not allowing the people who do actually do the farming to have a say in the farming, how it should be done, and what inputs should be provided to them and so on, should be made available to them. We don't have agricultural science and environmental science running this country. We'll be having that for a good time. What we have is political science, which is not really a science in the true form of a science, because a science is of the creator. The creator don't create these kind of dangerous things to people. No way. So until we get command of our environment as a people, we will always be at a loss. We will always be at a loss. And that is where this time needs the people to put their mind to think and stop believing too many things. If you could think 80% and believe 20, you'll be doing excellent. You'll be doing fine. That means to say 8 out of every 10 times, you would be succeeding in what you're trying to do. Surely. Okay? So our fishing sector has been depleted of income, of wealth, of health. And you know how that has impacted on the rural areas. Things just rough in the rural area, all these areas. And what I'm saying is our people must not just sit down and individually and grind them out and say this and that. Start taking the right action. Start looking for the other players in the team, the other participants, and working together and put a solution to the pollution together. That's why we're building this army, because all these things have to be looked at and overstood at an early age with the right vibrations so we could make things happen properly. Okay? Now, I want to give you the biodynamic gardening plant and planting by the moon phase guide for the period Wednesday the 20th November, that's tomorrow, to Tuesday the 26th November. That's next Tuesday. Before we take a little break, because when we come forward, that major thing that about the Venezuela situation, we're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to be going into that, and showing you what really is at stake there. What really is at stake. You're not going to hear it anywhere else, because some people are not even addressing it. And some of them who addressing it, doing it in a haphazard way, or are very scared way. They don't know how to approach it. So we're gonna make sure that we give you what is needed in this one. Yeah, so let me just get to this. So yes. The biodynamic planting by the moon phase guide for this period tomorrow. What moon phase are we in? Trying to find my note here. Getting some problems with it. Wow. Seem to have misplaced my note. Anyway, we are into the waning gibbous phase. Okay? We are into the waning gibbous phase. And this waning gibbous phase will take us, that is after the moon is full. The moon is full on the 15th, as you know. That will take us right up to the last quarter. And what we do in this time is that this time is the best time to plant the underground food. So I hope that you've been planting that underground food. Okay? And if you have not been set, well, the seeds for the underground food, if you have not been doing that, you've been transplanting what you had, especially trees. Well, seem to we have misplaced my stuff here. Anyway, so after that now we have the waning. The moon moves from the gibbous form to the crescent form, meaning it's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. It's getting older, as they say. And with the smallness of the moon and the age of the moon is going right down until a new moon will appear after the stage of the waxing, the waning crescent. And in that period of time, what do you do in the waning crescent time? The waning crescent time is the time that you clean the land, most of all. You do not set any seed. Do not set any seed, not advisable to set seed in that time. It's available to clean the land. It's available to fertilize what you have, to harvest all plants and store them properly. Right? And to do whatever pest management you're looking to do at that time. You could also transplant, and you could mow your lawns and prune. So those are the activities that I expect you to do between the few days which are left in the waning gibbous and the other phase that is to come in the waning crescent, when the moon gets smaller or older. At the same time, you make sure that you have all your activities to prevent excess water from damaging you. Whether it's in your yard or water flooding or your garden. Well, I know a lot of farmers in the garden are so experienced now that the first thing they'll put in is a head drain. That's how we call it. That would lead any water from a higher elevation onto the production they're doing. And then in between that, because of our soil types for one, and our systems of land preparation, like banking and so on, we have never really been a country where crops get washed away like that, just like that. Because even with the furrows and so, that's a part of drainage. Even in areas where you plant dasheen and so on, by the hole and so on, that's also part of the drainage. And I said, once you have a head drain, and we keep our soils with a certain level of organic matter in it, which gives it the proper drainage, we don't have much to worry about. So whether you are farming a small portion of water space in your yard, or you're farming a small garden, or you're farming a couple acres of land, make sure that you do it in the right order. We have a market here to supply with food. We're going to talk a bit about that when we come forward. A market here that is trying to reduce, it's too dependent. Our consumption is too dependent in imported food. And a lot of our lands are lying idle. And instead of we hearing people who say that they have the office of administering to the country, say that they're going to assist in getting these lands in production, they're talking now about sending our farmers somewhere else. We're going to look into that in the next half of the program. Right now, I'm going to ask for one of the songs that we requested for the program, the first song. The Sizzler, and then we're going to ask our sponsors to give us a...
This is Kankadi Radio, Canada Caribbean Development Initiative Radio. We cross borders, we network in search of opportunities for all peoples.
Island Size Souvenir and Clothing Store. We carry everything you need in souvenirs. T-shirts in all different sizes. Cap, keychains, key rings, plaques and banners, magnets, ID holders, mugs, and we even carry St. Vincent flag. And that's not all. We carry Hawaiian style t-shirts and dresses, handbags with matching scarves. We also carry tie-dye dresses, shirts and tops. Everything in our store are made right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So come on over and check us out. We are located at the cruise ship berth in Kingston, Island Style.
The Hill News Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real-life stories of the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life. So join me, Ben Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30 for Inside Health on Bay Hill News Net, also on KankadiRadio.info.
Boost your brand's visibility with Branding by Weeks. At Branding by Weeks, we are passionate about helping brands gain exposure and make a significant impact. Let us elevate your brand's visibility and reach new heights. Connect with us today by email at spweeks@hotmail.com or message us on WhatsApp 613-866-8939.
It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio.
Yes, folks, it's Heart to Heart every Thursday night. Please join me this and every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for Heart to Heart. You can hear Heart to Heart on Bay Hill News Network and also on Kankadi Radio in Toronto. Every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Please join me. You never know what you're going to hear on Heart to Heart, but you will hear it. Don't forget to join me. Please share this live.
Join your host, Ras Bish, for Stepping into the Light at Bihill Online Radio and Kankadi Radio. Ras Bish steps into the light of food and agriculture, culture and liberty. Stepping into the light lifts the level of your self-consciousness, activates your collective security genetic code, raises your earthly vibrations. To win in this ingredient, you must listen to Stepping into the Light with host Ras Bish.
Yes. Yes, people. Now, this week, we had a lot of things this week. We had the weather, the rain. We also had some lightning and thunder. we in Camden Park here had a double rainbow that last week. You know, this month is the last 7 days, a very, very mystic time. And then we had some announcements. And one of them coming from the Minister of Agriculture and from the Ministry of Agriculture. It says that this country has been offered 25,000 acres of land in Venezuela farm. And according to what I was told, he would like to send farmers down there to plant, among other things, cassava, other crops, right? Now, the minute I heard that, I said, this is not normal. Something else is missing from this thing. Based on what I know, and based on what a lot of people know, and given the context where we are right now in this country, let me just explain some of that context to you. We are part of CARICOM, which is a 16-member group as you know, in the region, who have a very high food import bill annually. And we have collectively taken a decision, signed a decision to reduce our food import bill, our region, by 25% by 2025. The end of 2025. That's less than 14 months away. Okay? Less than 14 months away. Right. In this country, we have not seen any real move towards that. Never mind the talks we've been hearing, because this is not something you just get up tomorrow and say you're doing that without you have a proper understanding of what to be done and how it should be done. Right. After that now, Guyana, which is the headquarters of the CARICOM food reduction program, has offered land, and this is since last year, to all the CARICOM countries to produce extra food in Guyana. So much so that the gentleman in charge of the program, our own Vincentian-born Dr. Leonard O'Garrow, has said publicly that his team has already earmarked and marked, at the time when he said 2 areas of land in Guyana. That was since last year. One, the entire size of the Dominica agricultural land, arable land, and one, the size of St. Vincent arable land. So that if any unforeseen circumstance were to develop in the countries and they couldn't produce the food, they would have the same land space in Guyana to produce the food. Now remember that Guyana and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are members of CARICOM, the same organization. Apart from that, they speak the same language, English. Apart from that, they have over a century-old communication between them of people moving from one country to the other and intermarrying and interbreeding and having different families of Guyanese, lots of mixed families of Guyanese and Vincentian. Right? So here we are being given our signature and being a part of this regional movement to reduce the food input bill by 25% by 2025. But right in this country here, as everyone could see, never mind how much you close your eye, you could still see it, that hardly any of our land now, our arable land, our land that produced food not too long ago and could produce food at any time, and hardly any of that now is in production. As a matter of fact, the last guesstimate we made is that between 5,000 and 7,000 acres of land have been farmed in this country. That was before Beryl. In the 1970s to 80s, we had about almost over 20-something thousand acres of land, almost 20,000 acres of land in farming. In the 1980s and 90s, we had over 15,000 acres of land farmed under cultivation. And right now, we have less than 50% of that under cultivation. So, as we know land no rotten, why are we leaving our land? Why are we being told and advised and encouraged to leave our lands here, which are the best soils in the entire Americas, to go to another person's country where we can parley the lingo and try to produce commodities to send to St. Vincent, which is no other way you could classify that but as an import. Never mind what you do. Never mind who grew it where. Once it's coming from somewhere else, here's an import. And you're trying to cut imports at the same time. That don't make sense. And that is part of what Sizzler was saying. Dance a yard before you dance abroad. Dance a yard. That's what we want you to see. That is what we people have to do. We have to dance a yard. Never mind who telling us to dance abroad. We have to dance a yard first before we could dance abroad. So until we decide that we put in our everything we have together to get this land into food production and medicine production and all different types of good production, and that would aid the fish production and the sea moss production, because sea moss could get tainted by things that are into the water also. Until we could get ourselves together where we could build that health, then we would not have the foundation on which to build a strong nation. We wouldn't have it. And we would just be wallowing in 3D. When the other people who decide differently, the few, would be way up there in 5D. And then it would be too late. So we have to get ourselves off the butt. So when I looked into the thing now, I said to myself, how could something like this be justified? On what grounds was this decision made? And of course, you know, the way I do things, I get into my little research on these things. So some of what I found is what I want to tell you. Well, before I go there, I want to preface it by saying we also know of the present standing disparity between, not just dispute, serious dispute between Venezuela and Guyana about land. They want to take almost 2/3 of the land that is Guyana's land. Okay? And if the people from our country here want to be on the arbiter side, they have to deal with this thing in a balanced and straight way. You have to have good ways to pass Lion Gate. So when you're telling me that despite the offer from Guyana, which has so many advantages compared to this one, you're still going to say you're going to take up land in Venezuela. Something else has to be in the mortar beside the pestle. But listen to this. Agriculture in Venezuela has a much smaller share of the economy than in any other Latin American country. After the discovery of oil in Venezuela in the early 20th century to the 1940s, agriculture has declined rapidly. And with beginning of the large-scale industrial development in the 1940s, agriculture and land reform was largely neglected by successive governments. Although in 1960 a land reform law did see 200,000 families receive land, in the early 1960s. Since 1999, under the Bolivarian Revolution of President Hugo Chavez, agriculture has had a somewhat higher priority. Agriculture in Venezuela accounts for approximately 3% of GDP, 10% of the labor force, and at least a quarter of Venezuela's land area. Okay? That is what one report says. So we could see right there, and this is this year, right? That is not to say Venezuela is a hot spot in agriculture. So we rush in there. It's not to say that. So we go in there to learn any advanced things which we cannot do for ourselves. We cannot do that. So what I did now, I looked at the differences or not the comparative data between Venezuela and Guyana. It says, in Venezuela, arable land in hectares in 2021 was 2,600,000 hectares. Okay? You multiply that by 2.47 and you get how many acres. You see, right? The population, well, the unemployment rate was reportedly low, 5.53%. But the population in Venezuela is in 2024 was 28,405,543 people, of a density of 32 people per square kilometer. That means when you take the arable land and you divide it by the number of people, it means each person would have just 9,920 square feet. Now I want you to listen to this and see if this makes sense for us Russian people to Venezuela. With their population and the agricultural land that they have, the land they have in production, they call it arable land, right? Land that was in production recently and still is in production. If you divide that on average per person in Guyana, each person would have 9,920 square feet. That's just like a lot of land. Because we say 4 lots in an acre, we're talking about just over 10,000 square feet. If we do it like that. But here, this data now, Venezuela imports between 57% and 60% of its food. Now, when you look at this country, you're already seeing some similarities between that and this in terms of the agricultural sector. We import a lot of our food. Lot of our food. Imported right here. They import a lot of their food. We now have a lot of our land, our food production land, unutilized. So does it make sense to take our farmers and send them to Guyana, to Venezuela, to grow food to send here, when we have our real lands here, which are even better soils than in Venezuela, to grow the food right here? Why we not dance in a yard before we dance abroad? And there are a lot of people who would come and try to defend that decision. Not from any rational, scientific point of view, but from a political point of view. And that is what we have to get away from in this country, our people. We have to get away from the empty political rhetoric if we're going to get somewhere as a people. Never mind who it's coming from, when it's coming from. We had too much of that since in our last 45 years as a country where we say independent. We have to get away from those empty statements. And as I say, roots not the root. You have to get to the root and start building from the root. Now, Guyana has 420,000 hectares of arable land, which is just over 2% of the country's total land area. But because of its population, if that land was divided by the number of people, each person would have 1.36 acres. You see the difference? 1.36 acres. So if you were to use a model, would you use a model with a country where the proportion area is less than 10,000 square feet, or one there where it is over an acre? And one where all the other factors I mentioned before are harmonious with what is happening here. So it doesn't make any sense at all. Guyana imports around 40% of its food, which is much less than the 57 to 60% of the food that Venezuela imports. But apart from that, the government's goal is to produce enough food, that is the Guyanese government's goal, locally to meet the demands of Guyana's population, and then to meet the food demands, the food needs of the rest of the Caribbean. So if we know that, and we already signed up documents with Guyana and the other CARICOM countries to collectively reduce our food import bill, what we doing sending our farmers to Guyana, inviting them to Venezuela for? Except it has some political objective. Doesn't have any agricultural or economic objective right here. None. And there is no one that could show you anything otherwise. No one. So here we are, a country which is supposed to be working to decrease its food import bill, which had regional and local conferences here and symposiums here and lectures here and meetings in the last 3 months, supposedly aimed at that. First we hosted the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. I remember a couple of years ago I coined the phrase Caribbean Week, not WWK, but WEAK of agriculture. Some people wanted to castigate it. But now you're seeing it. Of course, some countries have taken it seriously and are now trying to get rid of that weakness. And that's a good sign. But we seem to be moving 1 foot forward and 3 feet backward. Now, reportedly is that Guyana, Venezuela is a good place for us to produce cassava. I want to look at this thing historically and objectively. How many of you could remember and recall that in the first term of this administration, and in the last term of the last administration, you had a problem where a lot of cassava farmers couldn't get sale for their cassava because the room, the transformation room, the industrial capacity to turn the roots, the cassava tubers into farine and other products was not there. So it put a brake on the expansion of the production. And when this same administration came into office in 2001, between 2002 and 2003, they put into place something which they had 2002 and 2003 in it. They put into place a cassava factory, set up a cassava factory to take care of that particular problem. The factory was located at Orange Hill in the same vicinity where the arrowroot pulverization plant is. And one would think at Orange Hill in the same vicinity if you're planning where the arrowroot pulverization plant industry, especially you're just going to bat your first chance in the wicket, which has the potential to be significant. Because remember that cassava is an indigenous crop. It's a very important crop to the indigenous people of this country, particularly the Garifuna and their descendants, but also the Kalinago. Right? It also became a food for a lot of the people who came after the abolition of slavery. The free, as they call them, the free blacks who came in after, because they came from Africa, and Africa was always a cassava eating country. And our Indian people who came in the 1860s. So cassava maintains its importance as a staple for the people of this country. And nutritionally, it makes one of the best cereals in the world, especially for our kind of people, because of its fiber content, mainly, but also for the nutrients and the energy it carries. So, it could be used. A lot of people still use it as cereal. People use it as a food to you stuff in whatever you stuff in. And cassava has to be in the mix. You're making a stuffing for whatever. So it's very important. But we have in this country an annual importation of cereal and cereal preparations bill, which I just want to give you a little peep into. Okay? I just want to give you a little peep into that one. Yes. We have, in 2012 to 2023, I'm just going to run it off in millions of dollars. We imported $74 million worth of cereals and cereal preparation in this country. In 2012. 13, $68 million. 2014, $66 million. 2015, $65 million. 2016, $58 million. 2017, $61 million. 2018, $55 million. 2019, $57 million. 2020, $53 million. 2021, now remember, all this time from 2019 up, we hadn't signed it yet, but we already taken the decision to reduce our food import bill based on 2019 figures as a region. So here what happened. 2019, I said 57 million. 2020, 53 million. 2021, 61 million. Then after we took the decision and principle, and we're going to sign it a year after that. 2022, 72 million. And last year, 2023, $73 million worth of cereals and cereal preparation were imported into this country. So instead of our imports go down in even quantity and value, they go up. And here we are with a very important crop that we should be industrializing in this country. We should have been doing that since in 2020, 2004, 2005. We started the industry. We talk about it, but what do you think happened? What do you think happened? When the farmers went out and planted the arrowroot, lots of farmers went out and planted arrowroot because they were inspired, especially people in North Windward and North Central, even in South Central and North Central. Those three constituencies, right? They knew that they were told and they expected that they harvest would have been bought and taken to the facility and ground, and everything would be good. But lo and behold, the implementation of the facility, like so many implementation of very important things in the agriculture sector, just fell apart. And the mill that was supposed to grind a certain volume of roots per day never materialized, never worked. You could imagine that? You're planning an industry at that level and you're making that kind of mistake. Well, I ain't saying this one or that one responsible, but the whole gamut have to take the blame for that. And it shows that our farmers are still not that organized to make sure that these things happen, because the farmers themselves had no say in the design and the implementation of the factory. And it's just what's happening right now. Right now, our farmers are scrambling at individuals. The last meeting, the last symposium they had with the 15 of the registered cooperatives show you that in plain sight. Because they say they're trying to reinvigorate like the cooperatives in some sort of a what you say they're in a coma. Right? Most of them. And they want to be revived. So if these things are not working, what is the sense of pushing these policies? It's just part of the divide and rule. And that is not the way we have to go, people. If we do not unite ourselves at every level, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Now, in terms of the markets, while I'm saying this, I'm going to show you people who into the vegetables and fruits. What's happening here? The market you have. Value. Vegetables and fruits importation from 2012 to 2023. That's just last year. Value. Again, I'm rounding off the figures to million EC dollars. 2012, 19 million. 2013, 19 million. 2014, 19 million. 2015, 20 million. 2016, 21 million. 2017, 21 million. 2018, 21 million. 2019, 22 million. 2020, 23 million. 2021, 25 million. 2020, this is when we're supposed to be reducing, from 21 up. 2022, 27 million. 2023, 28 million. So that is the size of the consumption market right here annually for vegetables and fruits. Most of the vegetables that you grow here, the only thing we don't grow here that come from outside, so as far as I could understand, vegetables, is asparagus. But everything else we could grow them here easily. And fruits, look where our fruits are now. Look at our fruit production and things. So, while they're not dancing in the yard, they want to dance abroad. Put these things in place first before you talk all them kind of fancy language that don't make any sense. These are the things that we have to make sure get in place. And we can't tell them to put in place. We have to make sure that we get it in place. And we invite them to go along and get it in place. If they don't want to get in place, that's their problem. We still have to do it. We, the people, have to do it. Because the system is not doing it. It has not been doing it. It has not been directed to do it from outside since the late 1980s. And they're carrying out that objective. But right now, that force that has been given them, that kind of strength, is very shaky right now. It's going down. Going right down right now. So we have to prepare ourselves for the eventuality. That is what we're doing. That's why we have to build a new workforce in this country. Starting with the youth. Can't let our youth go astray and waste. That is how it's supposed to be. So, we have these things that we're supposed to be correcting, and we're not correcting them. We're not correcting them. Meat and meat preparation. Now look at the amount of grass and bush in this country. Vines, everywhere you go. Elephant grass, like, my goodness. If we had 1% of elephants in this country for the amount of grass we have, we would have more elephants than a lot of African countries. In terms of our meat and meat preparations, this is the import data. The irrefutable import data. Irrefutable, because I know my source. From 2012 to 2023. And tell me if you see any effort is being made to reduce this importation by increasing the production locally for the people who into this aspect of it. But yet we want to take our farmers from here, instead of using them here to do what they're supposed to do and send them to Venezuela. The only reason I could see them sending there is, as Sparrow said when I was young, is to look for Matilda, because Matilda take his money and run Venezuela. So they might find she. Anyway, 2012, $50 million worth. 2013, $48 million worth. 2014, $48 million. 2015, $46 million. 2016, $44 million. 2017, $45 million. 2018, $50 million. 2019, $51 million. 2020, $49 million. 2021, $56 million. 2022, $73 million. 2023, $68 million. Now, when you look at the vegetation that is growing wild around this country, and a lot of it that growing wild ain't get no fertilizer and them kind of thing, it's just growing wild naturally. Do you know how much feed, how many heads of small ruminants, sheep and goat, and not even talking about cattle yet, we could feed from that? And if we were really serious about the ruminants, the big ones, cattle, and the small ones, sheep and goat, in this country, with what we have naturally, and put in the investment in terms of training and in terms of infrastructure and land and resources in our farmers' hands, instead of have them trying to ship them out on a political move now, we would have had a part of the base of a good tourism sector here. And people would have loved to come here to eat the same kind of meat they eat when we send our animals outside. Grass-fed meat, which has no hormones in them and no GM of corn and soy and so. We're feeding them off our local products right here. But that is not the objective, because in that case, who would have been getting some of the wealth, a good portion of the wealth? The local people. And that is not the objective of the system, to make the local population of a certain financial independent level and a cohesive level. So they're not working on things like predial larceny. They're not working on things like investment in any serious way. And all you get is these little spikes of rhetoric coming up when an election is approaching. That is a big win all the time. The last 40, 50 years, 45 years. You get these sort of sports at this time from the government in office, whichever one it is. And then nothing real materialized after that, because the heart, the vibration is not in it to do it. So we the people have to make sure that if we really want to get somewhere, we have to stop wake up and quarrel every day, and start waking up and reasoning every day with our own people and building that oneness to get where we want to go. That way we ain't going anywhere. We're not going anywhere at all. Nowhere at all we're going to get. So here we are struggling day in, day out. We're not seeing the blessing when they come because we think that blessings come in a certain form. But even this rain that has been coming for the last week or so is a blessing. Great blessing because it's turned certain things and it's bringing the water that if you don't want to collect it, other people or the country is you, but the water came. So when January, February, March come now and the lack of rain comes up because the climate is a different time of the year, season change, is then you're going to remember, oh, we should have really helped them people to stir up some water in October, November, when plenty rain was falling. Because we don't count it as a blessing. All we see is how much land wash away. Like if the rain comes for spite to wash away the land. No, this is how you have it. Why to wash away? If we did more protection of our environment, we wouldn't have all these landslides and things like that. Not to say river wouldn't come down on that bank, yes. But we'd have proper river defenses. And it wouldn't have been chucking up like that because less refuge and less garbage would have been in the river. But we as a people have to start to think, first of all. Some people think differently. A lot of people don't think at all. So a lot of people have to start to think. And those of us who think have to start to think in an advanced stage completely differently. Because the people who sell us food, who we buy food from in other countries are not individuals, they're companies. And the people who produce the food for them are not doing it at a one-off neither. They are groupings. They organize at some level. We're not organized, but we want to compete and we want to stop their food from coming by being islands. No, we can't do that. We have to stop their food from coming by having the same structures. We won't have it at the same size, but we'll have it at the same effectiveness. Same structures like them and putting our people there and getting our young people who has a knack for the technology now. Nobody have any more knack than them, no other race. They don't tell you that. But our people have knack for technology much more than them. And exposing our youth to the real technology now so we make the farming a real advanced science. That is where we have to go. I mean to say we have to restructure our entire education program, our entire conceptualization of what life is about. That's the only way we could do it. I think right here I'm going to call for my second tune. First Bob Marley, I think I'm going to call for that. And when we come forward, we continue with the way forward because there's no turning, no reversing this time, no going back. Forward we have to go. Forward we have to go. We cannot allow this generation of youths to go to waste. And we cannot, when we hear statements like those, immediately, you don't even have to wait on the elder people. Immediately some group of youth will say, look, with all the respects to you, Mr. Minister, what you're talking, it don't make any sense at all. Not in the context of where we are. So we ain't going that way. We ain't going that way. We are staying here to dance a yard before we dance abroad. We are staying here because we know that we have to put certain things together for our people to have a platform in which to spread. Okay? We have to build a different state. Come from. Yes. We need a cultural revolution. We need an agricultural revolution in this country. We all need a liberty revolution, a consciousness revolution. That's what we need in this place. We're going to have it. That's why we have to rebuild. Right now I'm looking at, I said, 13 agricultural districts. I'm looking for at least 25 young people in each district. 25 people. Young meaning anything between 15 and 35. Right? Mainly, even up to 40, because you're still young when you're that age. We got to get things going together. I am already looking for the resources to do what need to be done, and they are on their way. And I need people who have it inside of them, heartically, that they want to do this thing. People of all aspects. We have to make sure that we have our people ready. Because globally, when you look at it, food is the biggest issue. What comes from the land is the biggest issue. So we have to be ready in every aspect. Ready in order to own our lands, to control our lands, so that nobody can take them from us in the stroke of a pen. No kind of legalies could take away our lands again. No way, no way, no way. We have to make sure that we use our lands and farm them with the correct type of inputs. Nothing to harm the environment, because remember, the land really belongs to the next generation, We are just the stewards now. So we have to leave it in prime condition for those who to come after, and those who to come after. Okay, we have to let the good earth, we have to make it sure the good earth, let the good earth produce. Right? We need people of all different skill sets. All different skill sets. So that is what we have to do. A very versatile workforce. Producing right now with that, in this country, we could produce the best foods and the best medicines. So we don't have to depend on the people outside who want to produce these things that would make us mental slaves and control us with their foolishness. We're not into that. We have to step in a different way now. That is where we have to take our people. And anybody see who don't want to go that way, they're not for you. Never mind what kind of pretty talk they have. They're just working for the same people outside who want to keep you foolish and keep our generation of people mentally enslaved. We cannot afford to keep going down that road. So, groupings, we start with you. We're not limiting it just today, but because just in the whole grouping, the same people we start with right now who got the seeds from the indigenous people, you are already in the whole mix. You're already in the mix. We're just building from there. But you already have certain skills. But the people who have no skills or whose skills need honing and developing, we're looking to at least get about 400 people a year trained, technically trained, competently trained in that area. Okay? Because it's not just about theory, it's practically trained. You have to have a hands-on approach. And once you have the love for it, and most times you have the knack for it, it becomes easy. And develop it from there. So you become part of the big business, the big national business setting that will develop to make sure that we in this country, we can, with the natural gifts we have, and with our people thinking the right way and moving the right way, we could have the best product here for food, local industry, and tourism right here. For health, of course, and health would be there. Health is the major underlying thing of it. That's where we have to go. Anything else, we're just wasting time. We're just wasting time. We cannot afford to let our resources be wasted again, like the way how they've been wasted and deliberately attacked from the 1980s to now. We can't do that. Nope. No, it's time we leave that darkness and get stepping into the light. And that is where we are going. That is where we are going. We as the adults have a responsibility to the young generation now and to those who come to make sure that we put certain things in place so that they don't have to go over the same foolishness that we've been going through. The same problems that we face now, they must not come and meet them. They must not come and meet them. It doesn't make any sense. Ask yourself this simple question. The simple question. You don't even have to travel too far. Those of you who live in the town, in the concrete, take a van, go Windward side or Leeward side. Or even go up in Green Hill side. Or even go over to Edinburgh side. And from the time you reach anywhere sensible going up, you see a mount of grass. How could a country like this with so much green growth? And as a matter of fact, the people say, some farmers say, if you cut the grass today, you clean today and you don't plant the next 2 days, when you come next week, it's like if you ain't cut any grass. The speed they grow it now. How could we have an environment in which our farmers cannot produce commercial meat in large quantity, very frequently? They have to be suffering from predial loss and all kind of foolishness like that. How could we as a country not invest in the right infrastructure and use the appropriate technology to get our people to a different level? But we could spend nearly over $600 million by building a port for which we know we would have very little input in terms of the utilization of that port. Because the only way that port could see the building is for some transshipment of cargo, of which a lot of it would not originate here, because we're not building here. Look at this thing you're saying, to take our farmers and send them to Venezuela. To do what? To learn Spanish? This is no time for that. When we have all our lands here going in bush and we have no food, and every little thing you see now selling in St. Vincent, never mind how small it is, it's not going less than $5. That's where you want to pitch us? No way. Nowhere we are allowing ourselves to go there. We as a people have to stand up, and that is why we need to have a consciousness revolution. We need a revolution. That is the only way we could get a solution to this pollution. Only way. Get our people to start to think, first of all, and to get them to think the right way. Outside of that, we're not going anywhere. So, I would like to have the third song I requested played. For this week, asking you to make sure that you control whatever rainwater is affecting your property. Have no fear. Let us work together. And also, before I go, I want to say, Mr. Minister, with all the pronouncements you're making, with the rain that coming, and you see what's happening, this is why we need and we are coming for those tanks for the people who benefited from the little program that our indigenous people supported. We need a tank each at least. Look out, coming there, right in your office. We need them. So, over to you, my brother. Let us say what Bob has to say. And then we will make our exodus from there. Everyone have a blessed week. Most prosperous and